deep. Lauren made she made some tuna fish for Aurora for lunch yesterday. And I waited until about 12:30 to start eating. And I said, you know what? I'm going to polish off that tuna fish. I'll throw some cheese in there, and I'll some cottage cheese. I'll just make it a little bit more protein dense, whatever. So I go over to the refrigerator, throw open the door, pull out the cheese tray, the actual shelf that comes out, and there's all like cheeses and stuff in there. So I got the sliced cheddar, and before I picked it up, I turned around, and the whole package fell out of my hand onto the ground. I said, okay, not a big deal. Don't cry over spilt cheese. As I'm bending down to grab the cheese off the ground, my head shaves a block. It's not the biggest square of skin, but it shaved off this skin clean on the edge of the open draw, which was surprisingly sharp. Now, I would have rather had an impact on the head that kind of like stunned me a little bit than this. I said, oh no. I didn't even look at it. I just closed the drawer, took the cheese, and I went away. I asked Lauren about a couple seconds later. I said, tell me how bad my head looks right now. And she went, oh, what happened? I said, damn it. I said, I took my skin off. She goes, on what? I said, let me show you. Brought her to the refrigerator, opened up the door, pulled out the drawer, and as I'm pointing down, I said, what the fuck is that? It was my skin. It was there in one piece. So I picked it up. It didn't touch any of the food. I wiped off things. Everything's nice and clean now. But it was just incredible to me what happened. And the other thing I noticed is that I'm still pretty tan. I got to talk to Jay about this. I don't know what it is. I don't have my red light. I know that helps preserve a tan a little bit. I got to talk to Jay about this. I'm not as pale as I usually am in December. And I got, I made sure I got in the sun a lot, working out in the sun. I just got a lot of sun as part of my healthcare routine last year. And I got pretty dark. But by February, I would think that I would be, Casper the Friendly Ghost. Though I have that olive complexion. Reggio di Calabria. So that's just, so damn. I hope that I hope this new patch of skin that comes back is capable of getting that dark again. Anyway, that's the end of what I have to say. It's 7:03. I have three guests coming on tonight. Our first guest is Lauren Conlin. She is a true crime and culture reporter from New York. We've spoken to her in the past. I can't wait to have her on tonight because she is going to go. She does really great reporting on the Utah ritual abuse case that we were following as it was breaking back in 2022, probably sometime around May. And not only do I want to recap on that because I want to know where we are right now, but in the second half of the show, after the intermission, we're going to have Frank and Jim Zell coming on, who were the ones to call our attention to what was happening in Utah at the time. And there's a lot of details I remember, a lot I have forgotten, and I want to get a deep dive on the whole thing because where are we right now? And what was revealed? There was a lot of grisly stuff in that, and it's kind of gone quiet. And where are any numbers of the perps involved? The Levitts, the Hamlins. Oh boy, well, all that will be coming out tonight, but not after we do a little bit of grab bagging over here. So thank you so much for hanging out. Again, we got some new merchandise on the Quite Frankly merch page. There is the Best Apocalypse Ever shirt that's there. So go check it out. Ryan Gable's on tomorrow night. Jim Lee is on Thursday night. I don't know what's going on Friday night, but Saturday we'll have a special. Next week will be nice because we have a lot of room in the beginning of the week to do just call-in shows. I have a lot of topics I'd like to get around to. I'm going to save the petty breakup stories that we were going to do on Friday for Valentine's Day night because I'll have Lauren and Aurora in the studio then, and that'll be fun. That'll be fun. That's all I got for you. All right, so here's the first thing up. This one came from Poopy out there in the chat room. He wanted to send me something on, because we mentioned the $50 million for condoms in Gaza. Well, this is a 2018 article that should be remembered by all. It is from Bloomberg. Flaming headline, flaming condoms are the newest threat to southern Israel. Inflated rubbers with fire bombs attached... attached torch fields, woods. Oh, wait. With fire bombs attached or attacked? With fire bombs attached to the rubbers. They torch fields and woodlands in Israel. Israel is, and this is in 2018, Israel at the time was struggling to deal with the improvised incendiary devices, the condoms. And we just sent 50 more magnums over there. 50 million more. $50 million worth of magnums. Can you imagine the incendiary devices that we just... It's all ridiculous. I just couldn't believe that there was reporting on what you would think that back in 2018, after it was reported that all the condoms that there was, because they have no use for them, all the condoms that was sent out there were being used as fire bombs. You would think that they wouldn't get the condom money anymore. But again, like we said, it's not about condoms. It's about rampant criminality from our government and everybody associated with it. So there's that. Okay, so RFK is one step away. He is one step away from being the head of HHS. He was approved by the Senate committee 14-13, and apparently this Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, he's a real piece of work. Apparently, he said, for me to cast the deciding vote on this, I needed Elon Musk to make promises. RFK to make promises about this and that. Okay, listen, do whatever the hell you have to do, Bobby. One vote away from hopefully not having to be nearly as diplomatic as he has had to during these confirmation hearings. And but that's just where we are right now. For instance, I want to gauge to which degree Bobby Kennedy supports the vaccine schedule and vaccines in general, because he's had to say at least a couple of times in the latest hearings and interviews that he is, he supports vaccines, and all I just want to know to what degree. Is it certain? Is it pending intensive? Is it certain vaccines? Is it pending intensive studies on cumulative intake, which is what he was talking about? And are we comparing those studies to people who have not been subject to modern schedule or none at all? How much of it was lip service? I mean, you got to understand, if you're going to do what is being proposed, then it's like getting through the school system. If you have your sanity intact and you're getting through high school and higher education, you need to just know what it's horrible to say it because I don't really know what kind of education you're getting. It's more sociology than anything to know that I have to get through school and I'm dealing with a lot of teachers who just have a worldview that is permeating every bit of their lessons. And for me to be able to get the degree I want to go out there and have some kind of professional autonomy in the world or something like that, I've got to be able to give them what they want, or to be very, very diplomatic in being on the other side of an issue without pissing them off and having it affect my grades or my chances of moving on. I mean, that's just the way it's all working when you deal with people who are this activated. Anyway, so I just wonder, because he's been like so outspoken, even in his reasoning for staying away from the seasonal flu shots. So I am curious, but to be honest, I wouldn't care if he remained somewhat neutral on the issue as long as liability protections for drug companies are lifted. That would, because you know what that would do? That would allow an incredibly knowledgeable and tenacious public to bring companies to court, to present evidence, to have clinical data subpoenaed. There are generations of parents in this country alone who have smelled a rat with the issue for a long time and who have been obsessive with their research, because especially when it comes to love of a child, that will make you obsessive. So RFK can concentrate on stuff like glyphosate in the crops if he'd like or whatever, as long as we can unleash the hounds. That would be nice. That would be really nice. All right, so that is what's going on with RFK, and we'll see what's going on there. Here's a little something from Natalie Winters. Natalie Winters says, "Hi, Doge. I think we found another one. Open Borders NGO, Make the Road NY, has received over $16 million in government grants while actively training illegal aliens how to avoid deportation and lie to ICE agents. Incredible. Isn't that something else? Lie to the ICE agents, they say." Far left tax-exempt NGO was filmed coaching illegal aliens on how to lie to ICE agents to avoid deportation. The group also, but listen, they're doing this in North Africa for anybody who's paddling across the Mediterranean. I think Lauren Southern was a part of, she did some work out there too. We saw it there. They're doing it all over the place. This is a worldwide migration crisis. It's being managed for invasion purposes. This is worldwide. Like I said, we are just the Western Hemisphere front of the operation. So absolutely. And I'm glad this is continuing to get more and more in everybody's faces. Even when it comes down to NPR. That's what Elon Musk tweeting about NPR. It's good. Good. Bring more people's attention to it. Very, very simple. Very simple, but straight to jail with the NGOs, and we'll see where that goes. It must be in the pipeline. It has to be. It has to be, because again, it's not waste. It's a multilateral criminal syndicate. So just shut down the organizations. No time to care anymore. Go. They're all going to pretend it's the 21st. The thing is that they want everybody to think that in being in that business, in sneaking people all around the world and relocating them and all that shit, how to evade authority. They want people to believe they know what they're doing, but they want people out there who are going to go and defend them because they don't know what the hell's their ass from their elbow. They want people to believe that they're the Oscar Schindlers of the 21st century. That's what they want everybody to believe. You know? I saw CBS was reduced to promoting a video of a crying Guatemalan woman, illegal alien, who was she was about to get deported, and she's crying for the cameras, and she's crying because her parents took out loans that added up to over just about $26,000 USD to be able to pay the smugglers to get her over here. Now, the high end of actually becoming an American citizen, outside of the time spent because you're studying, you're putting things together, you're getting your references together, whatever the hell else, I think that you might pay somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000 if you need legal representation, whatever the hell it is. So $26,000 worth of loans, $26,000 worth of loans to avoid American law, so you can join some diaspora in Queens. And live separate from the rest of the country right here. To hell with all this shit. To hell with it all. To hell with it all. And I'm just happy that people are getting upset, like Elizabeth Warren, all of the women in the Democrat Party who really are the face of the downfall of the party in the public eye that nobody wants anything to do with anymore. The cackling, screeching harridans that they are, they took turns insulting Elon Musk today. They say, nobody voted for you, Elon Musk. Nobody voted for Ben Rhodes. Nobody voted for Susan Rice. Nobody voted for anybody that Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or George Bush or anybody else surrounded them. But a president comes in and picks his people. Some are taken from the private sector. Some are, if you don't like Elon Musk for some other reason, you didn't care too much about him until he became politically active. There are many people in this audience who don't trust him because before he became really politically active, he was a recipient of government subsidies, and he does have very strange, technocratic visions for the world. And so there are a lot of people who have well-reasoned skepticism about Elon Musk. But of course, we know what we're getting from the screeching eels.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing.
That's right.
Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk.
And?
Not one.
Not one. They did the thing from Walk Hard. Oh, and you never once paid for drugs. Not once.
One Republican in America voted for Elon.
Oh, shut up, you. You know what I love? I also love how unhip bloodsuckers like Senator Schumer. I love how unhip bloodsuckers like Senator Schumer are actually being made to say Doge over and over again, unironically.
We also know this is just the beginning. If Doge attacks USAID today, then you can be sure they'll move on to another target tomorrow.
Good. Because if they're not moving on to another target, then this would have all been in vain. Why just USAID when there's so much more, Chuck? Do they attack? And what do they attack? Over and over again. Doge. Everybody's saying it over and over again. Doge. Here's Marco Rubio talking about USAID, rife with rank insubordination. They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency. They're completely unresponsive. They don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think that they're a global entity, that their master is the globe and not the U.S., and that's not sustainable. That's from our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who, if he continues just running that script and doing what he's told, I'm fine with him, whatever. I'm fine with him doing that. But this is just incredible. It gets even better. Okay? Listen to this. This is from Jorge Bonilla. ABC actually aired a USAID employee's description of the scramble as Doge rolled up to the office and their hurried removal of woke iconography and documents burning scene in essentially the movie Downfall. Take a listen to this.
But Elon Musk's influence is sweeping throughout the administration. It was late last week that the Doge team showed up at USAID offices in Washington and demanded access. USAID employee Christina Dry described the scene.
Doge was in the building. We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating.
Quick, get the pride flags. Get the pride flags.
It's like a scene from Goodfellas. They're trying to stuff the pride flags down the toilet. Don't let them know that we have the pride flags. Save them. They put the pride flags in the whatchamacallit, the air ducts. Save it. Put it under the floorboards. That's where we kept the pride flags when the Nazis came. When the autistic South Africans showed up, we had to hide the pride flags. But what books? What incriminating books? What are you reading? What are you talking about?
No one was talking. We heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets. They unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys. It didn't feel good. And then
good. I can't wait until you're kicking off down the dusty trail there. Man, oh man. You know what the good thing about this is? The scrambling tells me that everyone thought that they'd be able to comfortably keep shop set up and bureaucratically resist once again like they did in 2016. And instead, they seem to be getting their nuts cut off. Okay? Because they weren't prepared for this. They were not prepared at all, and that is interesting to me. It's very delicious, if you ask me. But pray tell, what incriminating? What crime? What crime are you talking about? Nothing says activist like having your office totally dedicated to expressing your desire to subvert and cripple a nation's culture. But again, it's the CIA, everybody. It's the CIA, and both parties are, though both parties' establishment want to keep it afloat. There are some of the, that's it. This is it. And not only that, just to throw this out there before we move on to our chief talk of the night. But now that some of you might have seen how USAID is subsidizing at least part of the BBC in England, British media. I hope that this puts just into a little bit better scope George Soros's 200 radio station purchase. All right. George Soros's 200 radio station purchase that we were talking about, the Odyssey app, all that stuff, that should make a lot more sense as if it didn't already. We give away way too much credit to these people as individuals at times. We become fixated on them. And now I know that George Soros is a big fish, but he is still a bag man. Okay, so if you think that all of his influence and all of his philanthropy has been all of his money, I wonder how much of his money he actually was spending the entire time. Just like questions we have about and have in many cases answered about Jeffrey Epstein and who he was tied to. Big fish for sure, but just another cog in the machine. So when we come back, we're going to be joined by Lauren Conlin. We're going to get back into the Utah case because I want to know where the hell we left off. It's a true crime kind of night, and I look forward to having you along. Share the show, whether you're watching live or on demand. It's time to get going.
Phil, hey, I was just thinking about you. Those Islander tickets, right?
How about this humidity?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!
Oh, hey, hold on, everybody. We got a lot of good stuff to do tonight. We're just back on the other side of the intro here, and I'm just pulling in our guest right off the bat because I want to know what the heck Lauren Conlin has been up to. And like I said before, she's been on before. She's a podcaster, a reporter, a host with a focus on pop culture and true crime. She does a lot of her reporting from the heart of New York City. And tonight she joins us to recap a case where we were watching this thing bloom in real time. So I'm really happy to have you back, Lauren. How's everything been?
Everything's great. Nice to see you again. And thanks for having me.
Oh, well, time flies and I'm just happy you're back. So, I know that you cover a lot of this stuff, both pop culture and then also true crime, and you do it all very well. But I did not know until Frank and Jim Zell reached out to me. And they said, hey, listen, nobody can really put this Utah thing in a nutshell like Lauren can. I said, really? I said, well, great, because I have been so hungry for information on this, and we might as well start from the beginning. So welcome back. Here's where I will begin. In 2022, and I have the press release over here, we found ourselves in the middle of this crazy situation that was unfolding right before our very eyes. We had this sheriff in Utah. What was his name? Mike Smith, Lauren?
Yes, Mike Smith.
This is what he put out. Let me put it on screen with both of us, get you up there with me. He said, in April of 2021, an investigation began into ritualistic child sexual abuse and child sex trafficking that occurred in Utah County. The ensuing investigation discovered that other victims had previously reported similar forms of ritualistic sexual abuse and trafficking that occurred in Utah County, Wab County, and Sanpete County during the time between 1990 and 2010. Portions of these allegations were confirmed. These allegations are being investigated by the Utah County Sheriff's Office in cooperation with other local and federal agencies. We are pleading with the public and encourage victims or individuals with knowledge of these crimes to contact the Utah County Sheriff's Office Special Victims Unit so they can be offered all the assistance possible. We understand that there's a lot of individuals who have concern for safety, etc. And this was on May 31st, 2022. Now, where my memory really remains clear is that something unprecedented and surreal essentially happened afterwards, where we had back-to-back press conferences where you had the Utah County Attorney David Levitt. He came out quickly to not only discredit the witness that they said this whole investigation was based on, but then he also admits later on in the press conference he and his wife are implicated in the investigation.
Yes, that's correct. And can I just tell you that I recently watched an episode on IDTV, The Curious Case of, and it's about this man, Nicholas Alverdian. You may have heard of this case. Arthur Knight is what he goes by. And David Levitt actually was prosecuting this guy. He is accused of raping a woman back in 2008. He's accused of clearly having multiple identities. But there's this special, right, about Nicholas, and I see David Levitt on my screen. And this is literally 3 days ago. I see David Levitt on my screen, and he is playing a victim here. If you guys recall, if you had discussed this press conference that David Levitt gave in 2022 was the cringiest thing ever, because Arthur Knight, or Nicholas Rossi, whoever this guy was, he leaked a 2012 victim impact statement actually naming David Levitt and his wife. And so on this episode of The Curious Case of, David Levitt is a victim, essentially. He's really leaning into being this victim. He says that Arthur Knight made up these claims to get him out of office, to get another prosecutor on the case. It was so frustrating to see and hear. I was like, this is not even true. They actually even put Mike Smith up on the screen saying, oh yeah, this guy was investigating David Levitt. Let me be clear. David Levitt was never named as a quote unquote person of interest. As you well know, Frank, the cops don't do that. If they're investigating you, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, we're investigating you. No, never happened. So, yeah, I went a little bit on a tangent there, but I thought that was really interesting because this all ties together.
Yeah. That was so strange to us too, because we had, first of all, just the press release was crazy in and of itself, because you're talking about something that we know, especially when it comes to ritual abuse, is probably connected to a very large interstate network. It's very rarely is it going to be relegated to a small little area. This kind of thing consumes towns. It creates, it's usually plugged into networks that sometimes go international. And then, but it was the response. He seemed like he was, of course, getting out ahead of it, to just I have to go out there and make a response to talk about how this is all based on the allegations of a deeply disturbed girl that have already been discredited and all that stuff. And then he goes out of his way to bring he and his wife into it. And so it made a lot of people scratch their heads.
Well, and let's back up for those who are unaware. So in 2012, there's this man. Okay, his name is David Lee Hamblin. He's a former therapist. He lost his license back in 1999 amid sexual misconduct allegations. Now, fast forward to 2012, and David Lee Hamblin, he was a prominent member of the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints, but behind closed doors, allegedly, he was a high-ranking member of the Church of Satan. And so was his family bloodlines. I mean, this dates back decades and decades and decades, allegedly. And so 2012, his daughters come forward. His eldest daughter comes forward to the Utah County Sheriff's Office, and she accuses him of a slew of child rape allegations, ritualistic abuse allegations, and he's essentially charged 18 different charges. And they actually have a recording of him apologizing to his eldest daughter for raping her. And 2 years go by, and the charges are subsequently dropped due to not enough evidence. I mean, it's very, very unclear, but it's very suspicious. Now, in 2012, when she came forward, her and her sisters drafted this 150-page victim impact statement. And in this impact statement, they name their parents as the main abusers, many family members, but also prominent members of the community, including David Levitt and his wife, Shalom. And Frank, I read this victim impact statement and I didn't sleep. I had to compartmentalize exactly what I was reading. And, you know, it feels almost like it's not reality, what they went through. And I've done a lot of digging on this. If you go to my channel, I have 2 episodes so far, but I came across this person who was hired to investigate these claims and essentially corroborate the claims of child sex abuse and ritualistic abuse. And he did. He found over 100 people, different people. He found corroborating circumstantial evidence that this was true. And so David Levitt, you know, this case was dropped, and David Levitt didn't find out that he was named until 2022, years later, when Arthur Knight leaked this on his website, Zeus News Now. And that's when it was about a week before re-election. And David Levitt was like, okay, this is all a political scheme to get me out of office, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what happened at all. And it's incredible that he was able to contradict himself so many times in this press conference as well. I mean, it's terrible. It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, but it went to so many different other places. I remember that there was Native American adoption schemes.
Okay, yes.
What was this?
So David Levitt is a whole other can of worms here, because yeah, he was investigated for bribery and also an illegal adoption of a Native American child or indigenous child, on tribal land. But the way he went about this, and he's literally on record saying this, that he went to Montana, to this tribal land, and he spoke to the president, and he just said, yeah, let me broker this deal where you can sell your buffalo meat to my people in Ukraine. I have ties to Ukraine. Oh, and by the way, can I illegally adopt a child? And he, like, what an idiot. He says this on the record, and then he gets investigated. And as far as I know, nothing happened with that investigation. But Frank, I got to tell you, in this press conference, he alludes to something, and what he is named for, I'll just say it. And I'll just say these allegations, they're allegations. It's allegedly. But in addition to raping multiple children in the victim impact statement, the sisters allege that he and his wife brought a polygamous boy, a 10-year-old, to sacrifice. And sorry, I can't even say it without wanting to like punch a wall, or because I was reading this one part, and this is when I had to put the victim impact statement down. I was like, no, this is not real.
You know, we were reading this. The Zells, they do a lot of digging. They're old school in the way that they work. So a lot of these victim impact statements, some of this stuff led, I don't know if you got this far. Some of this led to Westchester County, New York. There was ties to that is only about a mile from here.
I mean, Frank, there are ties everywhere, and that's the sick part. But basically, he's accused of bringing this polygamous boy, this 10-year-old, to be tortured and sacrificed. And she names that they did it in Spring City, Utah. That was just an afterthought, okay, the location. In the presser, he's talking about all of these allegations. And do you know what he says? He literally says, I've never even been to Spring City, Utah. I'm like, wait, that's your denial? You've never been. Wait, I'm sorry, what? Like, how about I didn't do this. I could never do this. This is, I mean, it's like, and she could easily have gotten a location wrong, right? I mean, we can all kind of forget locations, but we cannot forget events. So I was just like, man, this guy is all over the place. And I want to point something else out. I did some digging into his wife. She is a sex therapist, sex researcher. I put that in quotes because I think it's bullshit because of her website. And you can go to it, shalomlevitt.com. And I'm not inciting any type of violence or harassment towards this woman, but she makes me sick. She actually has she has a section on her website on how to talk to children about sex. And she splits up their ages, 0 to 7 years old, 7 to 14. And in the 0 to 7 years old section, she actually has a section where she tells you as a parent not to shame your 3-year-old for masturbating in the bath, because that is when they start to feel something. And I am sitting here and I am like, are you kidding me? At 3 years old, you are not. I'm sick. And so I'm like, this is corroborating circumstantial evidence to me that they think children and sex put together is okay. And I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but if you also want to know how real this is, there is a bill that is actually going into effect this May. It's taken this long, Frank.
Is it this?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So this is so funny. So you've seen this. Now, child abuse is currently a misdemeanor under Utah statute, and aggravated child abuse it only rises to the level of a second-degree felony if it's intentional. Well, now passing this bill essentially means that this is going to be a second-degree felony, and yes, they have defined it.
Oh,
so you can see it, right there.
I was gonna read this after the intermission. I don't care. I mean, because when they go into detail here, this is from Fox13now.com, and when I'm looking through the details of this bill, I'm saying the fact that this had to even be defined is
yeah. And if you look at some of what these victims say, it really matches what the Hamblin sisters said as well. I mean, I'm sick to my stomach. What happens is these kids will get raped, they will get abused, and then an adult will take a piss on them, okay? Just to show them how worthless they are. And these sisters said the amount of, and I'm sorry, am I going to get you like kicked off YouTube talking like this?
No, my blood pressure is raised, but
okay. So yeah, they say the amount of, their father raped them in every place that they had, as well as other family members. And then they would have to eat fecal matter belonging to their father. Yeah. So their mother would pump them with antibiotics. I mean, these girls they talked about how, the whole thing is so heartbreaking, so infuriating. It brings out feelings that I don't think you knew that you actually had inside. And just the fact that this has been going on for so long, I uncovered something, and I shouldn't say I uncovered it, it's very well documented, but something called the Pace Memo that was issued in 1990 by a Mormon bishop, Glenn Pace. And he wrote this letter to the high church, to the board, basically, and he did an investigation. And he stated that he was convinced that at least 800 members of the church were involved or had knowledge of child ritualistic sex abuse. And he believed, after interviewing over 50 people, that the purpose of the torture of children was to cause disassociation. He said, as a result of this disassociation, children would, quote, develop a new personality to enable them to endure various forms of abuse.
Yeah, that's the basis of MK Ultra.
Right. So, this is substantiated. He's got all of these people that came forward, and he actually said, listen, guys, I wouldn't believe this either if I didn't put in the work and the research. Same with the guy I told you that was in charge of corroborating these claims from 2022. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't have believed this either. But now that I've spoken to how many people, yeah, I believe this. And after I put out my first episode, by the way, a survivor came forward, a survivor of David Lee Hamblin, and told me her story. And so, the fact that I believe this is happening as we record and talk about this, it makes me sick.
Well,
so that's one of the reasons I feel the need to bring this forward. And it's sad that the mainstream media won't cover it because it's so insane seeming, but it, again, is real. And after Glenn Pace put out this memo in 1992, they really had no choice. They had to, quote, investigate this. And I put it in quotes because it was a bullshit investigation. And they're like, yeah, sorry, these claims aren't substantiated. And then they just moved on.
That's it.
And now, yeah. So here we are in 2022. David Lee Hamblin, he was released. I think you probably covered this, released on bail, which is so sick. And finally, after 3 years, February 19th, this month, there is going to be the pre-trial hearing to determine if there's enough evidence to actually go to trial.
Oh, so they actually found it, because the last thing I knew about this was that Hamlin and his wife, they were arrested, but that they couldn't find a prosecutor who was willing to take up the case. So they did find a prosecutor then that was willing to do this.
There's 3. I went to the dockets this morning. There's 3 prosecutors, and again, this is just for David Lee Hamblin. But I mean, I'm nervous because this judge was the judge that decided he should walk away and not sit in jail. So, and they have connections everywhere. I mean, what's his face? Yeah, David Levitt, his brother was the governor, and he's in cahoots with Deloy Hansen, the billionaire that owned the Royals and owned half of Utah, essentially. Those 2 guys, David Levitt, and if you want to pivot back to David Levitt, because I'm just all over the place, but they took a trip to Ukraine, okay, about 3 months after it was invaded by Russia. And this is when all the kids are displaced, Frank. They are escaping. UNICEF was like, emergency, emergency. All of these children are in trouble here. They are at risk of being trafficked because they're displaced. So Levitt and Hansen run over, even though it's there's a war going on. They run over to Ukraine, and they say that they're going to help all of these families. Mm-hmm. And maybe your listeners or viewers can help me with this, because I was a little weirded out. So I'm on this website. I'm looking at the families that they helped. And there's the Levitt Institute logo up there, the Deloy Hansen Foundation on one side, and then families from Ukraine. And then there's a QR code. So I scan the QR code, and it takes me to a site that I didn't recognize at first. It was in a different language, but really it was Wikimedia Commons. And I was like, no one really uses that site anymore, but why do I remember it being so weird? So I Google it, and the first thing that comes up is that they were accused, and it was substantiated, that they had child porn on their site, and it was readily available to everybody. And the FBI knew about it. And I'm just like, wait, this could be a totally simple redirect here, and I'm just overthinking it. Or could it be something else? It just seemed a little, too strange given what I'm researching.
Well, first of all, I think it's very safe to say that even in a state of peace, relative regional peace out there in Ukraine, that has long time been known as a child trafficking, especially hotspot in the world. Then you add any level of destabilization because of a conflict, an armed conflict, and so much is lost in the chaos. So many people are displaced. So many children are turned into orphans. And I would hazard a guess that the Levitts were helping Ukraine just like the Clintons were helping Haiti. It's not
because you don't do this out of the kindness of your heart.
Absolutely
you don't run into war because you have ulterior motives here, especially if you're a politician and this billionaire. I mean, at first, if you look at, and by the way, this wasn't widely publicized, but when it was, Levitt said, oh, the billionaire doesn't want any attention, so he wants to remain private. But I saw in a couple other different articles, okay, he was named here. But I mean, I am just, I guess, I'm disturbed. I'm upset. The fact that it's taken this long for them to prosecute David Lee Hamblin. And I'm upset and I'm disturbed that he's been able to live his life on house arrest. And there was actually a woman on TikTok, when I posted something on TikTok the other day, she actually DM'd me and she's like, oh my gosh, I know this guy. We're in a Zoom therapy group together for like ex-Mormons or something. I had no idea about these allegations. This is crazy. And I'm just like, it's insane that people don't even know about it. So, and the fact that these charges are so disturbing and so heinous, and he's still released on bail is so disgusting.
Well, getting away from Hamlin just for a second, going back to David Levitt. The last thing I heard about him was that after the election, not the 2024 election, I'm talking about 2022-ish. After the election, he fled the country and has since been living in a castle in Scotland. Is that true? Is he still in Scotland?
Oh, yeah, that's true. And so let's go back to Levitt and Nicholas Rossi, who he claims ruined his life, ruined his career, or that's what he said on ID last night. He says that these claims that were leaked by Rossi and the fact that he was colluding with the sheriff's office just ruined Levitt's life. And I'm kind of like, okay, cool. Wouldn't somebody follow that up with, well, are you going to sue him for defamation? These are pretty serious claims. And if he ruined your life, why wouldn't you sue him? No, there's no lawsuit out there. And he left the country. And I'm a firm believer that's because David Lee Hamlin's wife was arrested in 2023. In my opinion, Levitt sees the chips falling here. I hope and I pray that it's only a matter of time. However, as I said, these sick individuals have people everywhere. And it's time that Utah is privy enough to weed out who these people are, protecting these sickos. Okay. I mean, again, this has just been going on for way too long. And you think about Warren Jeffs. I thought about him the other day. He was, this leader in the Mormon and Latter-day Saints church. He was, child rapist, raped his own nephew. His nephew wrote a whole book about it. It's really sick. And something else that is, I don't want to say interesting because that's not necessarily the right word, but people who hear about this case and how it involves the sacrificing and essential murders of babies and children, they're just like, that would never fly. How would this go undetected for 20 years? Well, because these people are sick and strategic, they sacrifice these children and these babies from polygamous colonies and tribal lands where they have no birth certificates. So it's so sad. I mean, it's just, again, I've lost a lot of sleep over this.
I can imagine, because it's, we haven't been able to really get anything new out of this situation since we started drinking from that fire hose in 2022, because those victim statements, and they were all out. And like I said, the connections were international, because we went into, reservation land in Montana, to Ukraine, to over here a couple of blocks away in Westchester, New York. There's one street in my town that I drive by all the time, and my stomach turns thinking about the horrors that neighbors just never knew what was happening there. And but I was thinking about this here too. I've interviewed, and I should probably bring him back sometime soon, because it's been a while, but Mike King of Profiling Evil. He's been on the show to talk about a lot of the cases that he covers that really much of them center around Utah. And there is, as far as the Mormon church, cult activity out there, it's already a very strange thing. But Utah is truly an entity unto itself, and there is such strong cult activity. And even the Mormon church in itself, it confuses the hell out of me, even in just in its natural state. But to see how many cults and how many, we're talking about satanic ritualistic congregations that go out of their way out there and thrive under the auspices of Mormonism and everything else. How much time do you spend looking into the state of Utah in general? Because a case like this is one of those things that opens up a passageway into a network that is sprawling and takes you through so many other cases that may be going on elsewhere. But I can't even imagine what the true story of what is happening behind the veil out there.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. There are so many of these cases and so many people, hundreds of thousands of people that were abused in the Mormon church or were abused in the Mormon church masked as the Church of Satan, essentially. And I think that, Frank and Jim can give you a lot more examples here, but it's hard because I hope your viewers don't think I'm crazy, I guess, because it does sound so crazy that I can't even really talk to anybody about this, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, this audience would sympathize with things like that. We pretty much get together every night at 7:00 so we could talk about what we can't say to our families. So
yeah. Okay. Well, okay, good. Because again, these people, and I've read a lot, right? There's so many documents out there. There's so many people that have stories and books of what happened to them, and it all matches. They're all saying the same thing. And I mean, just in terms of what was done to these kids, when they would have to participate in these ritualistic murders, essentially, and after, when they were finished, how they were just brainwashed by these adults who would say, well, now Jesus really will never love you because you're a murderer and you're this and you're a whore. And they're talking to 7-year-olds. I mean, yeah, it makes me want to get down on my knees and just like pray for them, but hang all the pedophiles in the town square by the balls, because
but that's, again, the bigger question there is, and if you ever spent any extended amount of time talking with Frank and Jim about any of the work that they've been doing since 1993, what you're describing here sounds like one of those instances where Sheriff Mike Smith is a ray of light in what is probably a very, very tightly held together local or network of local governments that are owned and operated by people who are either involved, sympathetic to, or know what's going on, but are way too scared to cross paths with any kind of groups. This is usually the kind of operation that consumes entire communities, right down and up to its governments, its churches, many such cases as well. So that when we talk about hanging a perp by their balls and, justice being delivered in some way that would be satisfying to us all, when you think about the gravity of the crimes being committed, it usually goes back around to, okay, who's administering justice? And so many times when we're dealing with things that are categorized in this way, it is such a pervasive infection that it usually takes up a good part of law enforcement. And if they're not involved, they're usually really scared and don't want to rock the boat.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Sheriff Mike Smith, I really think that he is going to see this through. I didn't mention, but when they dropped the case in 2014, it did get kicked over to the feds and to Homeland Security, and they were investigating it, and they were ready to interview survivors themselves. And then COVID hit, and then by the time everything was kind of back up in action, they were assigned to another case, which is why this whole thing kind of took so long. But it's just so funny because when you watch Mike Smith's press conference, which he's really doing a rebuttal to David Levitt's cringy press conference, it's like David Levitt's press conference was like so long because he's trying to convince people of his innocence, when really it's like no one probably even knew what he was talking about at first. He brought it up, and that was, I think, one of his biggest mistakes. And then Mike Smith is over here like, nope, it's not politically motivated. And again, you're not the subject of our investigation. You were named in this document, but if you were the subject of the investigation, bro, we wouldn't tell you, dumbass. Like, everybody knows that. So, yeah, it was just very, very silly, in my opinion. And David Levitt actually screwed himself. And the way I'm talking about all of this, I try to be very ethical, but I would welcome, legal action, I guess. And this sounds horrible from David Levitt, just because I would like to open up him for discovery here. I would like to see what's going on behind closed doors. I would like to see a lot of these. You know what I mean? Like,
of course,
go ahead, sue all of us.
There's no surprise to me that he's hanging out in a castle in Scotland right now. You know, the last thing that someone like him, when you analyze body language, I mean, I don't know anything about local Utah politics or anything like that. But when I get a basic premise, when you get all we had as a discerning public was the statement from Sheriff Smith and then this really bizarre public response that is usually never prompted in this way from an attorney that you would imagine is going to just sit back and let an investigation go on. But obviously he wanted to get out in front of it for some reason. Everybody who looks at that is going to analyze body language. We're going to assume that he's trying to clear either himself or somebody who's close to him. So it didn't take very long for anybody who was interested in the headlines as far as they did go, because like you said, this was not a very widely circulated story. It's still ongoing, and I know everybody's got their things, and maybe more people in Utah know about it than elsewhere, but I don't know.
No, they don't. That was my point. Like, somebody was in a therapy group with him and they didn't even know about it.
Right.
And the other thing that David Levitt continued to say in the presser was he kept bringing up cannibalism. And yes, that was a part of the victim impact statement, but it wasn't, I guess, a large part of it. So to me, that just showed that this was at the forefront of his mind here. And I think that's a sign of guilt, personally, along with the whole not denying anything, but just saying, well, I've never even been to Spring City. She's tragically mentally ill. Oh, these are outlandish and absurd. But then he goes back and says that he's never actually read the case file from 2012. So again, all sorts of different contradictions. And you don't see cannibalism being brought up a lot, but no, David Levitt brings it up.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, in the victim impact statement, they did say that when a young woman would give birth for sacrificial purposes, Frank, they would make them eat yes. And including the 13-year-old or the 12-year-old girl who gave birth to it. So, yeah, I know. On that note,
you just think about the, I don't know, like the human sacrifice. Has it ever really gone away? No, it hasn't. It's all over the place. And but to talk about it, and that's probably why he brought up the cannibalism, to bring it out into the public in the way that we've been trained to deny things that our eyes are showing up, to deny things that our gut is telling us something's wrong. It's like reductio ad absurdum. That's where you just try to say, I'm going to reduce this to the most absurd accusation. And when people think about cannibalism in America, that is something that is just out. Yeah, it's crazy. No,
that's a great point. That's a great point, Frank. That's why he brought it up, because it is so crazy to think about. You're right about that.
Yeah, it's one thing for him to go out there and talk about abusing a child, assaulting a child. That is a horrible thing to think about, but it's one that nobody denies goes on all the time. But then when you go out there and say, all right, well, I'm going to take the craziest part about this, and I'm going to say cannibalism and scoff at it, like you said, anybody who's discerning on this, it doesn't go in his favor for him to bring this stuff up, and it actually really looks the way it seems. Lauren, what do you, with this and any other cases that you're working on, tell us where we can follow. You got to come back more often in 2025 to do updates on stuff, especially if this thing is going to finally go to trial. So there's that. Now that we have a little bit more of a basis to get those updates, but what are you working on next, and what can people expect out of you shortly?
Yes, thank you so much for that. You can follow me on my YouTube channel at Pop Crime TV, and you can follow me on all the socials, which are in my link tree that you put in the episode notes. But one of the cases that I'm covering consistently is also the Kansas moms case. That's a tragic case of two moms that were missing and then murdered out of Oklahoma, actually, right on the Four Corners. But that case, there are 5 defendants in that case, and they have not been convicted yet, but they hopefully will be later this year. So I went to the pretrial hearing for that. I've done a lot of episodes on that, but yeah, you can hear all of that and more. And right now, if you have Fox Nation, you can catch me on the documentary Deny, Defend, Delay about Luigi Mangione, which we previously talked about.
Oh, wow.
And also the Karen Reed doc that's on Fox Nation now as well, who's accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. And that's a wild case that nobody can agree on.
Oh, I know. Oh, we did a lot of that with Bob Mata, and I forgot. We actually did a couple of nights on that. I'd love to revisit because isn't that being all redone?
Yeah, so it ended in a mistrial. I went to the courthouse. I covered it for Nancy Grace on an episode, and I was like, where am I? This does not seem like a murder trial. Everybody was in pink, and it was like, what the hell? But yeah, they are retrying her in April 1st, actually, was when jury selection starts, which is kind of funny, April Fool's Day.
Wow.
But again, in my opinion, that case is a reach. They're trying to get her for murder. At best, it was an accident, but I'm not even convinced it was an accident at this point. Not to get into that, and I'm sure somebody will kill me for saying that.
No, I'm with you on that one. From how it was presented to me, I felt like it was a little bit more of a team effort, and I don't know. We'll get around to it because, like you said, April 1st is when the tires will get kicked again, and we'll be on that path. But you're doing such great stuff. You're all over the place. That's good for you, and I hope I wish you more of that busyness in 2025. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, and just last thing, if people have information about this case, contact the Utah County Sheriff's Office. It's not too late. They need more information. We need to expose these sickos. We need to get them behind bars where they belong, or in an electric chair.
Yeah. Does Scotland have extradition?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Because Nicholas Rossi was extradited from Scotland, believe it or not.
Wow.
So I know.
Wowee. Yep. Well, listen, it looks like we're going to have a lot more to talk about soon. Hopefully it's all good progress. And yeah, thanks again, Lauren. I hope all's well.
Thank you so much, Frank. Bye.
Take care. Okay, everybody. So here's what we're going to have. Just a quick little break. When we come back, we'll see what is being said in the super chats, your comments, and then we're going to have the Zells. Frank and Jim will be calling back in, and I don't know, maybe they'll call in sometime around 8:20. We might be able to get a couple of your calls in before they come on. Just so you know, after this show ends at 9:00, I'm jumping over into a Zoom call with a nice friend of mine, a really good friend of mine. Every once in a while, I stop in on her show. Quaint little show on D Live, and I believe Pilled. That's my friend Sandra. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a little bit, and on our way we go. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Would you settle for PG-13?
What's that?
Oh, gee. Night, Bobby.
Quite frankly, he's amazing.
Boom. Okay. So, how are you? How you feeling? Man, oh man. There's a little bit more. Take a listen to this. Seriously. And then I'm going to get some of your phone calls in. The open line is 914-200-0269. But I also want to read some of your super chats. We got Jay Britt says, "Damn, Frank, got to admit this one has been difficult to listen to. I guess I had put the previous show out of my mind. So sad." Hold on. Why the hell is this cutting off super chats now? Another problem? What else am I going to have? Hold on. Give me a moment there, friend. Oh, that's it. So sad. Yeah, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. I want to take an axe. I want to take an axe to everything. Everyone involved in something like this, I want to take an axe to them all. Let's see here. So thank you for that, my friend. Let's go over to Quite Frankly .tv. Powered by Pilled. Just Tina. Y'all, thank you so much for the cans. No Stud All Muffin. Thank you for the cookie. Thank you, Tina, again. Sean Joe says, Frank, you should check out the podcast Rotting Jewels on YouTube. She does great stuff on Processed Church, Son of Sam. Sean, send it to me. Email, send it to me, because I'm looking forward to. I actually have a couple of really great people that I'm bringing on soon that you haven't met before on this show. I'm sure some of you are subscribers to them, but like I said before, after the show, and here's Coffee Talk with Sandra. Says, I can't wait. So on Pilled and on D Live, Coffee Talk with Sandra, I'll be on there for about 20 minutes after the show. Just to stop in, say hello. Of course, I don't have any coffee, which would have made it a lot more authentic and cozy for me. But I'm always happy to visit a friend. Let's see here. Sean Joe says, also, Rotting Jewels ties the Mormon Scientology in with all of it. The Zells should check her out. We've never had a Scientology night. I'd love to. Purposeful. Thank you so much for that. All right. Again, the number is 914-200-0269. I see a couple coming in, but I want to read this to you. I want you to think about the implications of something like this. All right. This is from Fox13now.com. The headline is, after an emotional night of testimony, Utah moves forward with a bill to outlaw ritualistic child abuse. That wasn't outlawed yet. Then again, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if some states just never had any kind of need to legislate on this. Utah state legislature is moving forward with a bill that would criminalize ritualistic abuse of children. If it passes, the bill would define ritual abuse for the first time in Utah history. It has now received a favorable recommendation from the House Judiciary Committee. With tears in her eyes and her voice shaking, Cara Baldry decided to testify in favor of the bill while holding a picture of a young girl in her arms. I'm speaking up for her. I'm speaking up for her because she's the bravest little girl. If I could go back in time, I would hug her and tell her that she is beautiful. As it turns out, the photo of the young girl was Baldry herself in the 1980s. She held her own picture surrounded by other survivors of ritualistic abuse. The testimony helped convince a panel of lawmakers to favorably recommend the bill, which would designate ritualistic abuse as second-degree felony and lengthen the statute of limitations for other sex-related offenses. I mean, you'd think that just the nature of the crimes themselves would be, felonies. Today was a victory. Now here, child abuse is currently a misdemeanor under Utah statute. Aggravated child abuse, which contemplates a serious physical injury to the child, only rises to the level of second-degree felony if intentional. According to the bill, so if you're abusing a child and didn't really mean to cause serious physical injury, just devastating psychological and emotional trauma and, moderate physical damage, then it would be what? That's just, what the hell are we talking about? According to the bill, the word ritual means an event or an act or a series of events or acts marked by specific actions, gestures, or words designated to commemorate, celebrate, or solemnize a particular occasion or significance in a religious, cultural, or social, institutional, or other context. The bill would prohibit the following acts as long as they are intentional and cause substantial psychological distress or bodily injury to a child. Are you ready for this? Some of you may not be. Number one, causing a child to participate in or witness, and you know that this was because of the information that has been garnered from people in the past, and a lot of this and worse showed up in the testimonies, in the victim statements, and all that other stuff that Lauren was just talking about, and I'm sure the Zells will chime in on. Torture, mutilation, or sacrifice of an animal. I mean, we know that from just the, so much of the other, whatchamacallit, the tunnels at the McMartin School. What the hell was it? Where they found all the animal bones in there. That's a big part of it. Making children be a part of the torture and execution and sacrifice of animals. The dissection, mutilation, or incineration of a human corpse. Causing of serious bodily injury to an individual, making a child kill somebody. Bestiality, sadistic and masochistic activities, the ingestion or external application of human bones, blood, flesh, human vomit, animal vomit, saliva, urine, semen, fecal material, or other bodily secretion. Cannibalism. And this is all is now spelled out in Utah state law. An activity that would constitute a criminal offense, causing a child to enter a coffin or an open grave containing a human corpse or remains. Okay? Participate in mock, unauthorized, or unlawful marriage ceremony as an individual being married to another individual or fictional representation. And then, of course, any number of drug abuses. Depriving children of sleep, food, or water, binds or confines. I mean, there's more. There's more, and it's so there's that. And I had just seen this too recently, and I grabbed it, and yeah, the David Levitt guy. This is the guy right here who's living in Scotland right now. Here's a little bit. Around the 3-minute mark is where he starts talking about, he comes out on the heels of the sheriff announcing what I had read earlier with Lauren. He comes out and first discredits the testimony of the abused, the person that this whole thing was based on. And then he mentions himself around the 6-minute, 55-second mark. I think I remember those marks. Listen to this.
And there's a lengthy history and pattern of Nicholas Rossi doing that. Now, he's engaged in that process against me and my wife, making all sorts of allegations that are completely groundless, in an effort to shift the attention from his alleged crimes in Utah to something that's a complete farce. That's the first case. The second case involved a local therapist and centered around an allegation.
This therapist was Hamlin. Oh, why is it? Oh, come on with the damn
mentally ill woman who was that to shift.
My God.
That's the first case.
Sorry.
The second case involved a local therapist and centered around an allegation made by one tragically mentally ill woman who was that therapist's daughter. She accused him and 15 or 20 other members of the community from being involved in horrific crimes.
And first of all, the community again. And think about how unreal this is, that this is the immediate response from a local attorney, from the county attorney, comes out to get ahead of what the sheriff just put out. I mean, it's even if it's baseless that you think it is, or you're saying it is, you just let it ride, let the process ride out, and whatever. But he obviously there's a little bit more here. Now we're gonna go to 6:55 real quick. We'll be talking to the Zells any minute. They can call in any second. Here you go. Hold on a second.
Suspect, along with my wife, in this crime. Posing as Arthur Knight, posted to the internet allegations that I am a suspect, along with my wife, in this crime. It follows Nicholas Rossi's mode of operating, and it does nothing to but demean the integrity of me, my wife, and 15 or 20 other members of this community who had absolutely nothing to do with a discredited case from 15 years ago.
Oh, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about this guy. Listen, it's written all over the place. This is Mike Smith. Hold on. This is the sheriff. We'll just keep playing a little bit of this while we wait for the Zells to call in. This is his response. This is his response to David Levitt's allegations.
It was held earlier today. We feel that we need to answer some of the questions that were brought up and accusations that were brought up. And I want to start with reading the original press release that we gave out yesterday. GETTR contact we released. I want to hit a couple bullet points that a couple notes I made that are in reference to the press conference that Mr. Levitt just gave. First off, this is not a politically motivated investigation. Approximately a year ago, victims came forward to us with reporting crimes similar to those that are involved in the case Mr. Levitt brought up today. As we investigated those crimes, they led us to the case that Mr. Levitt has brought up today and has actually identified himself in today. As we looked for...
I mean, think about it. Think about what he just said. Even he's like, Mr. Levitt brought this up today. He's putting it all out there, and he actually identified himself. Okay? He's doxing himself in this issue.
We found corroborating evidence that these things had happened and needed to be further investigated. I believe, that Levitt is using his authority and his pulpit to bully, distract, and mischaracterize the facts of an ongoing investigation. Right now, the agencies that are working together on this case include Utah County Sheriff's Office, Provo Police Department, Juab County Sheriff's Office, Sanpete County Sheriff's Office, Nephi City Police Department, and the FBI. Our Special Victims Unit is tasked with this as the lead. They are very confident and professional. I have full confidence in them that they will investigate this thoroughly and completely, and they will go where the evidence leads them.
Okay. Well, listen, we got Frank Zells on with us right now. Frank, you there?
I'm here, Frank. How are you, man?
I'm all right. Where's Jim? Is it just you tonight?
Hold on. I have to merge.
Okay.
Jim, you there? I'm here.
I was just getting into the hold music. You guys didn't even let the hold music ring out too long.
Hey, we don't mess around, Frank.
No, I know you don't.
Right on time.
Well, listen. Okay, as you guys called in, I was listening. We went to a couple of timestamps in the David Levitt, cover your ass address. And now I just started listening to some of the response to that address, which, of course, these were all back-to-back by Sheriff Mike Smith. And, I would love to hear your thoughts on what Lauren Conlin, shaped up for us tonight. But, this story in May of 2022, this was you guys saying, Frank, you have no clue what the hell's going on in Utah right now. Read this. Watch this. We brought you on the air. We started talking about this. And, a couple of years later... Man, it's stalled in a very awkward position, but the what we have learned is it's one of those things that you can't unlearn.
Yeah, well, first off, Lauren Conlin, this is a really tough case. It's one of the probably the worst case. I've been doing this a long time, and this is one of the probably the worst ones. So, I urge everybody, because I've said this on your show many times. I ask people to get involved, to do research, and with cases like this, the mainstream media does not cover them. Outside of Utah, their Fox stations covered it. Did you see it covered here? Anywhere in the mainstream media?
No.
Nobody really knows what's going on, because they did the same thing, in Nebraska with Franklin. It was a huge case in Nebraska. This goes on and on and on. So when you have somebody in the mainstream media, like Lauren Conlin, who wants to put a spotlight on a case like this, I urge everybody, because if there is going to be a trial, she's going to stick with it. So, support her YouTube channel, go subscribe to it, and, show her that you want somebody like her to continue to cover this case, because this case still needs a ton of light. And I applaud her, and you can see the passion, it affects her. And you can see it. It shines. She reminds me of me when I was younger. It's that kind of passion for it. It bothers you. This may be one of, maybe she's not used to doing these types of cases, and you can see it. It has an effect, but she wants to take it on. So I urge everybody, especially with a possible trial coming up, support her channel and show her that you want her to continue. So I just wanted to tell her good job.
Okay. Well, that's
Anyway.
absolutely. And a great job too, because she brought a lot of memories back. And you guys, this was one of those things where you got off the bench for it to some degree. You didn't go travel half the country to start knocking on doors and interviewing librarians in Utah, but you did hit the phones a little bit. What do you remember from late spring of 2022 about this case? Because I remember when you started making connections that brought us to places like Ukraine, brought us to places like my own hometown over here. Strange shit.
Well, for us, it started with the press release. As soon as we saw the press release, we knew it was game on. And then when we saw the Levitt press conference, then we really knew, because that son of a bitch, you knew exactly what he was. This was no mistake. I disagree with Lauren on that point. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to sabotage. He was trying to taint the case in the press conference. As you mentioned, Frank, he was bringing up the most salacious aspects, the cannibalism, the murder, to make the case seem unbelievable. He referred to the victim as tragically or mentally ill, I don't know, several times. He brings himself out. He names himself and his wife as being in the report. He was trying to get out in front of it.
Yeah.
It was clear. It was clear as day. And then to see 2 hours later, Mike Smith holds a press conference, the sheriff, to rebut the county attorney. He even called him out on it, Mike Smith. He even said, he's trying to taint it. He should not be doing what he's doing. It was it was back-to-back press conferences that I'll never forget.
Yeah, it was surreal because it was happening right, in real time. So once we started making calls, it was like things were just developing day after day after day. We were getting more contacts. People within the Utah District Attorney's Office we were talking to, they hated the guy. The people I talked to, they had their concerns about the guy they were working with, and we just got, more, different connections and we just started digging more because it was happening in real time. It was fascinating how that went down.
Yeah.
We had contacts at the Attorney General's office. So everybody was, I've never seen it. Everybody was willing to talk at that time.
They were.
It was unbelievable.
What do you guys remember?
They all couldn't stand David Levitt.
And that, so then that's the biggest thing that you remember from the what little that you guys did on your own when you picked up the phone and you started. Who were you calling and who were you trying to get in touch with?
Well, I mean, you do this long enough. You know, we've been doing this forever, so we're pretty good at, you know, picking our targets on who to call. You know, there was a rash of, you know, people leaving the county attorney's office. So you would figure you start there. And that's how we gained, you know, we had sources within Levitt's office or, you know, and people that formerly worked there. And then once you work them, then they start giving you names and say, oh, you got to talk to people at the attorney general's office. And that's how we got sources there. And then I had a couple of cop sources. And that's how you do it. You know, this was an easy one. I mean, we wanted to see if we could still do it after these, because we haven't really worked a case like that in a while. And it was surprisingly easy because so many people dislike David Levitt.
David Levitt, not well liked. No.
Yeah. Well, I guess that helps out. That helps you out if you don't really have a lot of. Okay, so then there's the other thing then, because what I was talking about with Lauren when we talk about the 10 to 15 people, prominent members of the community, all that stuff. And then you look at people of Levitt's own office and people working around him who didn't really like him, who were willing to at least volunteer whatever information they could in some kind of a reasonably responsible way. It just goes to show that there are just people in, you know, strategic locations that are a part of the whole thing. But how many people in the office do you think would have ever expected this to be true about him? And maybe it didn't just think that he was an asshole or something, but to actually think that
Frank, I think I'm understating it when I said that they didn't like him. I had one of the sources within the office say that they thought he was a pedophile.
Okay.
So Frank, we're talking that level of they thought this guy was bizarre beyond belief.
Oh, I mean,
there were rumors about this guy long before 2022. Long before. This is what we were told. You know, we were told that the media was going to hit him, but they were scared for whatever reason, and they kind of backed off. Like, you had people working at the attorney's office that were working with the media to get this guy because, you know, there were rumors about Levitt and parties for years there. And our sources were telling us, why did the media take so long? What was the hesitation? Why did they fear him? Well, I don't know. Like Lauren said, it could be that his brother was the former governor of the freaking state. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's right.
It's true. And then, you know, I think about the other people, because it's not just like it was the Hamlins and the Levitts. There was 20 other people just in that one case file right there, or at least a reference to 20 people. I don't know if names were actually out there, but it makes you wonder what happened to the rest of them. If the Hamlins are, or at least David Hamlin is in jail and awaiting trial now. That seems like they got a few prosecutors to pick up the case, and Levitt is just kind of like on the lam in Scotland. What about everybody else in between? Because, I mean, even if you talk about the discredited allegations from the therapist's daughter, the therapist's daughter was pointing the finger at far more people than just her parents.
Oh, it was like a who's who in the community. You know, at least 15 to 20. And these weren't nobodies. These were prominent people.
So then where are those arrests? I want to know where those arrests are.
This is something that I talked to one of my cop sources on. When the arrests were made, well, David Hamlin, and then I believe his wife or his ex-wife, Rosie, was arrested. I went to one of the cop sources and I said, you know, where's the other arrests? You know, we found names in that asset, you know, in that victim statement, and we know that they are the same ones that committed crimes in other places. And we dug up these old crimes and said, look, man, they're named in this victim statement. You have them doing similar things 15 years ago. What the hell are you waiting on? And this is what I was told. I was told that after the prosecution of David Hamlin, and it's all said and done, there will be future arrests. That's what I was told near the end of 2022.
So that may still be lined up. It just might be delayed. If we're going to be hopeful about something, that timeline just may be pushed back 3 years now.
I mean, look, because Utah County was not allowed to take part of this prosecution because of what happened with Levitt, and it got that they couldn't find an outside prosecutor to come in. It's like nobody wanted it. That's where I last kind of left off with it. It was that no prosecutor wanted to prosecute, and that was the delay. And I was worried, and other people were worried that this guy may just walk, that they may just say, hey, you know what, state took too long, that's it, case dismissed. But Warren says that is not the case. It's going to be a pretrial thing. We're going to see if this goes to trial, and hopefully my source is right. And it just took longer than anticipated. I'm a realist. Do I think there's going to be any other, probably not, but at least I have hope. At least this is what I was told by a cop source, that after the prosecution of Hamlin is finished, there will be more arrests in this case. So you just keep your fingers crossed.
Jim, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. In that 151-page report, the allegations go back into the 90s, all the way back into the 80s. Okay. And in the 80s, I don't know, I was in transit a little bit during your interview with Lauren. Did you guys touch on Lehigh?
No.
Utah?
No.
Okay. There was another case in Lehigh that started out with 3 children being abused by a babysitter. And then the babysitter was looked at, and then it was looked at the parents of the babysitter, but then it began to morph into the neighborhood. And a guy named Alan Hadsfield, this is a very controversial case. It went down in 85. This guy Hadsfield was eventually arrested, and I think he only did 6 months in jail for sexual abuse, which is outrageous. But what happened was other kids in the community started coming forward to a psychologist in a treatment place in Lehigh, and they started sharing all these stories with her about people in the community in Lehigh, satanic abuse, right? That they're same thing, people with hoods on, the eating of flesh, sexual abuse, all of this stuff. And they said all these places in this town are places that we were taken to, a very familiar story. And what happened was they went after the psychologist. They made her to be out this key witness, and she was saying, hey, I'm just telling you what the kids told me.
Yeah, what was the accusation, Jim? That she was coaching them through a window or something like that?
She was coaching them, telling them what to say, and she was like, I'm telling authorities what they told me. And it wound up being dozens of kids from all over the area, basically accusing all these adults that lived in this community. But they targeted the psychologist, and they basically went on a defaming tour to try to, ruin her name. Eventually, Alan Hadsfield got convicted of charges, but no other adult did. And I wound up getting in touch with this psychologist, and I talked to her for a little while. And she basically summed it up by saying it's easier for people to target one person, me, to make me look like the bad guy in it, rather than come to the grips and reality of what can happen in a community.
Yes.
That people, it's,
yeah.
And she was telling me stuff about Utah that was crazy. She said, she goes, think of it as mob families, like you have in New York, New Jersey, where it used to be with the mob families.
Yeah.
So we have that out here in Utah, but with pedophiles. Think about that. Wrap your mind around that.
I'm trying to,
I was
because because what we're talking about again throughout the whole thing, I'm listening to this. I'm saying, oh man, 10 to 15 people. Who knows what the real number known associates are? It's all across state lines. I mean, whatever kind of disruption has been caused for David Levitt's friends, did they really give up that lifestyle in the last 3 years, or did they find a new place to hang out? Or they find another way to scratch that itch?
Yeah, by the way, Lehigh, Utah, Lehigh is in Utah County.
Makes sense. So they're all friends. They're all friends.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
It's basically interconnected there. It's so interconnected that those girls that put out that statement report, I guarantee you that went back into the 80s, and that was connected to the Lehigh case back in 85. I bet you. No doubt.
Man, oh man.
Yeah, Frank, but I mean, I know you touched on it earlier. This was wide ranging. I mean, if you don't think that this case is connected cross country, I mean, hell, we were told, they lived in New York for a time. These people, they moved in groups. Hamlin moved, he went to Arizona, right? It wasn't just Hamlin. It was all of them. They would move it was a coven. I mean, call it what it is, whatever the hell. It was a satanic group that would move together from place to place. And they moved, Port Chester was one place where they moved. But we were told by one of our sources, when we asked how widespread is this? And he was like, oh man, he goes, this goes back. He goes, this is by your neck of the woods. He goes, you're from New York, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm right across the river. He goes, there were people involved in this case called the Anna Gristina case. If that name may ring a bell, Frank. Remember the Upper East Side madam that was running like this multi-million-dollar kind of prostitution thing in 2012?
Anna Gristina.
Anna Gristina. It's like Gristina. I think that's the one that brought down Spitzer.
Oh yeah. Hold on, Spitzer. Let me yeah.
I'm pretty sure that may have been Spitzer's. That may have been the ring.
What's his first name? Elliot.
Elliot Spitzer. Yeah.
Elliot Spitzer. Hold on a second.
When did he get taken out?
Spitzer was. Oh, what was that? I don't know. Hold on. Let me get this down here. Elliot Spitzer. Ashley Dupree. Ashley Dupree was the one that took down Elliot Spitzer, I thought.
What year was it?
Let me see here. Let me see. Elliot Spitzer. Let me go to his Wikipedia page. Legal career. Lone gubernatorial. Let me see. Elliot Spitzer, governor until he was there from 2007 to 2008. He only had 1 year because I remember before him was David Patterson. Oh no. David Patterson became the governor. He was the blind governor, and wasn't he like he had sexual problems too?
I'm not sure about that, so I'm not going to speak to that.
I think that he. I think. Let me see it. Yeah, I think he was only in there. It says 2008 was his term. 2007 to 2008. It might have been only one year. I don't know.
Well, anyway, okay. Yeah, the prostitution scandal was the Emperor's Club. That's it. But anyway, the Anna Gristina case was in 2012. We were told that people involved in that case in New York were flying out to Utah to be part of what was going on there. Now, we don't know who they are. We're not talking like Hamlin and friends flying out to New York. It was the other way around. There were people flying from New York to join them. and whoever they were part of or somehow involved in the Anna Christina case in 2012 in New York City. Now we know Hamlin and company moved to Port Chester. Who they made friends with, who they were connected with here, were those the same people? We don't know. Now, Lauren Conlin is extremely well connected, so I'm hoping maybe she follows that lead and she can get information on that, because I think that was around the time I freaking had my heart attack. That's why I stopped looking into it.
I think so. I think that was around the time that happened. I'm looking into this here. Hold on, David Hamlin in Portchester. Where the hell is it? Where are you? Where are you? Now, yeah, I don't. I see. I'm looking all over. I'm just trying to get things up that you're talking about here. The Anna Christina thing, I couldn't find anything on it. I'm gonna have to do that off air, so it's we have a little bit more time to slap it together. But it's again, it's one of those things where I guess maybe. Thankfully, we have a nice foundation again, and we've been able to recap this in a year that hopefully there's a little bit more moving and shaking, because it's just like how many other times that we've had this conversation. When there's a case that's like right in front of you that we're talking about, it's all public information. Maybe only a few people are paying attention to it, but it's all out there. There are so many different ways into the hollow earth. There's so many different routes. There's so many different openings into the interior of the earth in that underground, where all this crap is going on, multiple levels. Essentially, the octopus, and and it's just like when you think about Utah, it's not a one-off in that respect. It's still a major portal into a international community of really obscenity and criminality. The fact that there is even a Ukraine link to this is just insane.
Oh yeah, Frank. I'll give you tying back to the Ukraine. You guys didn't touch on James Webb, right?
No, we didn't touch. No, she didn't. No,
she didn't touch on James Webb. Okay, James Webb ran a place called the Adoption Center of Choice in Utah. Okay, and in 2016. It went under because Webb was charged with fraudulent business practice, right? So the business had to close. So as he's under investigation in 2019, Webb files a motion to have the Utah District Attorney's Office removed from the case, right? This motion saying, no, I want them removed, which was interesting. So it has an evidentiary hearing because of that. So because of that motion, they have to have a hearing. In that hearing, David Levitt is called to testify because he was the DA in 2019. So he's called to testify. And at that evidentiary hearing, this whole relationship comes out with this guy, James Webb, right, at the Adoption Center for Choice. Levitt in 1997 approaches Webb for an adoption when he was the district attorney for Juab County at the time. And he asked Webb if he could pay for the child by a car. Just, I'll give you a car, you give me a kid. That type of deal.
Oh, I remember about that. I remember about that right? That trade. I remember that.
Right there, that's that trade. So he has a lot of these trades for kids, buffalo meat, cars. So anyway, he's like
the satanic Monty Hall, this freaking guy.
Yeah. So he tries to make it seem like in the hearing that, I just know him through the adoption. The adoption started in the spring of 97, ended in December 97, right? And during that time, though, all these things transpire. Levitt represents Webb in his divorce proceeding, right? Webb asked Levitt to intervene with a legal issue with a Native American woman who adopted a child through his center and then wanted the child back. So Levitt got involved with that.
Thick as thieves.
Oh, yeah. Webb approaches Levitt for help when Webb's ex-wife filed a child abuse charge against Webb. Webb had 8 kids. But then one of our attorney sources said, no, that wasn't child abuse. That was sex abuse. So Levitt refers him to a certain attorney named Larry Weiss who makes a phone call, the entire case goes away. Gone, right? So as they continue investigating Webb's malfeasance at his adoption center, they're uncovering paperwork. And I talked with one of the investigators in the case. And as they're going through the paperwork, they're finding out that he was misusing funds from the adoption center. And he was taking money and he was going on trips. And I bet you, Frankie, you can find out where he was flying to. The Ukraine.
That was really the destination.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Ukraine played such a huge
The Ukraine plays a big
role
part.
in this.
Do you see how it's all tangled? It's amazing. And all that came out during a hearing.
This is why I'm talking. I'm telling you, this is what I'm talking about. It's just like, okay, well, whether you're obsessed with the Finders cult or Franklin or what was going on at the McMartin School or something else like that, you can find your way into the same cavernous underground. It's just like on ramps and off ramps of the same highway that everybody uses. And it's all the same place. Right. So it's just like pick your front door. So it's not frivolous to get caught up in something like this, because if there was when I was talking to Lauren, the thing that kept going through my head, Lauren Conlin, obviously, one thing that kept going through my head was, I'm no fan of the FBI, but if there was any way that Kash Patel could be told, this is well beyond a state issue with Utah, for as long as an FBI is around there, if somebody like Kash Patel is in there, somebody can get his ear. Man, that would be one hell of a rabbit hole to send a couple of hounds down there sniffing.
I was actually thinking that same thing, man. If Kash Patel, but you know what? I mean, hopefully, the FBI gets cleaned out. I mean, do I think anything's going to happen? That all of a sudden the feds are going to be the super good guys and go into, all these areas that are infested with these cases, like Utah, Colorado. I mean, really all over the place. I don't think it will happen. It's okay to hope, though.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, what's the point of not hoping? Anyway.
I mean, these cases,
well, Frank, you know what, Frank? Even if you get one arrest, okay, and you say, well, what about all these others? At least you get one of them off the street. At least you get somebody. So if you get another arrest, maybe it's not the 30 people you want involved, but one at a time. If you take one monster off the streets, better than none.
Yeah,
well, at the end of the day, yeah. So.
Yeah, and because that's the whole thing here. We're talking about so many, and the real question is this. I think about something like a Harvey Weinstein that's essentially been rotting in jail since like 2017, 18, whenever the hell it was. He's physically rotting. His hips are gone. He's got cancer. There's so many things going wrong with him. And I think so many of us, even I, said, oh boy, I'll give him a couple of months before he's found choked to death or whatever the hell, because of the things that people know. But people keep their damn mouths shut. And I mean, obviously, Harvey Weinstein's a guy that is connected to much higher powers, and obviously he has to know where somebody. I don't know if he has anybody to even trade with, because if you trade in information like that and your sentence is commuted, you're let out, then what? Your days might be numbered. I just wonder who's holding all of these local people in. It just seems like they're bound together by their evil. Maybe other, taking David Hamlin off the street. Yeah, at least he's not on the street. But how can we throw a net over the other medium-sized fish? I mean, there's got to be more. There's got to be more, and I don't know.
And that's where you hope another arrest happens, like that cop source said. Then maybe two more happen, and it's something that's probably just going to happen over a sprawl of time. Maybe you get one here, one there, one here, one there. That's all you can hope for.
Frank, I don't think Utah is so interconnected. I'm glad they arrested Hamlin, but the church there is so powerful. Everybody there is a freaking Mormon for the most part, and you have these people that are being accused of these things that are higher ups in the Mormon church. So how far do you really think you're going to get? And then you add to the fact that one of the guys, you know, that's in the report, David Levitt, his brother was the former governor. When that's the situation, you know you're not going to get that far. I mean, we never had any doubts that David Levitt was going to walk away from this. You know, we knew that going in, that this guy, as soon as we found out that he was Mike Levitt's brother, we were like, well, you know, this guy's going to skate.
What did I tell you, Frank? Remember when I said, when is he going to a different country? And sure enough, he goes, well,
you nailed that. So, I mean, let's hope it goes to trial with Hamlin, and let's hope they throw Hamlin away, and then let's eventually hope my source was right and that there's other arrests, because, you know, there's 15 other 20 names that were prominent, you know, that were named. You know, they weren't, you know, the names weren't redacted. They're clearly named in the 151-page report in the victim statement. So maybe they pick up 2 more. Like my brother said, and over time, they keep going.
Well, I got to thank you guys for coming on with us tonight, because this really made for a well-rounded episode on just a great episode with all the guests and the input. And I feel, you know, we got a good refresher on something that is actually kind of dark and angering, but you know, it seems like 2025 there's going to be some relevant updates to the whole timeline. So I hope that we are here to catch some good news in a jar at some point. Anything you guys want to tell anybody? I have inthezeller.com linked inside of the description of this episode, and you know, we got to have you guys on more often, because everybody is always asking what the hell you're up to, and I always like getting calls from you guys. So it doesn't matter what it is, just you know, geopolitical commentary, whatever the hell else you're noticing out there. Let us know when something catches your private eye.
Oh, of course we'll let you know, Frank.
Okay.
You know how we are.
Yes, absolutely. So that's it. Hey, I mean, I haven't seen an update on. Wait, actually, no. You had an update on inthezeller.com not too long ago. So you still do pick and choose your times for publishing stuff, but is that still the only place that you want people to go and subscribe to?
You know, Frank, it's like in the Zeller, you know, behind the times with blogging, it's like we hardly blog on there anymore. We're pretty much on Twitter, you know, in the Zeller. and my brother's. Frank, what's your Twitter handle again?
Frank Z2137. And, you know, plenty of Ramsey stuff that I've posted over the last year for those interested in the Ramsey case. But, yeah, that's pretty much where you can reach us.
Well, I've tagged you guys. Go ahead.
Can I add one thing on Ramsey, Frank? I'm sorry.
Yeah, please go.
Yeah.
You
have these cases that happen, like Utah County, where, and other cases where there's ritualistic abuse, where you have victims come forward and through their revelations, you learn about the bodies. The trick with the Ramsey case was that the body came first. And they tried to hide what was going on in the town. Now, unfortunately, the media missed it. Me and my brother looked. We found out about what was going on in Boulder. So if you're into the Ramsey case and you want to know what was going on in that case and what the Ramsey case was really about, you have to learn what was going on in the town before the murder. That's what they kept out of the press. This is the stuff they didn't want people talking about. And this is the stuff the stuff that's on my profile, on my Twitter page, is what we found.
Well,
yeah, and I'm sorry, Frank.
No, I was going to say, especially if you're on Twitter, in the description, in the title of tonight's stream that's live on Twitter right now, is not only Lauren Conlin's tag, but you can click through to In the Zeller. And I hope that you guys have if you don't have it already, you should, in the bio of the In the Zeller account, you should probably link to your individual pages, just so people can, you know, get the subscribe to the brand, and also you guys as individuals.
Jim, get IT on that immediately.
Yes, do it. Do it. Okay. Anything, Jim? Was there something you wanted to say real quick? I have about 5 minutes left. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying my brother and I we're currently working on a project with the Ramsey case in order to get the information that we've been looking into for so many years out, to more people. It's a book project, so we're going to see what happens.
Oh man, well, I'll listen. At any point along the way, whatever you need from me to get word out or anything like that, I hope that you do, because I'd love to help.
No, we appreciate that, Frank, man. Really, thanks.
Whatever I can do, I don't know, but thank you guys for the time tonight, and I'll certainly talk to you after.
You got it, Frankie. Have a good night.
Take care, fellas. Take care. All right, on to Rumble real quick with our Rumble rants. Jay Semo says, this is before the interview with the Zells. Great discussion, a bit sobering, but the Zells are up next. Untitled 82 says a grab bag story. Daily Mail. What is this? Girl Scout cookies toxic ingredient? Autism link? They better not be Samoas. What are they? Are they Thin Mints? Oh no. Oh no. Lauren loves Thin Mints. Well, she hasn't had them in a while. Ever since she started working with Jay, she's on a very strict protocol since last spring, but I know she loves Thin Mints. Well, I don't. Okay. Well, thank you for that grab bag. I'll save that tomorrow. It's behind a wall, paywall. Justina, y'all, says this is hard to hear for those who are woke. Just imagine for those who are not. Yeah, I know. And Sean Joe said the people who are in the Process Church, they run the Best Friends Animal Society out of Utah. No surprises. You're going to find very few people who are surprised by these things. All right, guys and gals, that's it for tonight. It's the Tuesday night show. I'll see you tomorrow for 7 o'clock for the Wednesday. For now, I'm going to get off air, and I'm going to join my good friend Sandra, Coffee Talk with Sandra, for a couple of minutes. And hopefully we're not going to be talking about anything too heavy, because I certainly want to go home in a good mood and have myself a little bit of mineral water and I don't know what else. Maybe take a shower. Other than that, after Coffee Talk with Sandra, after hours programming is going to begin on quitefrankly.tv. That'll probably start around 9:30 or so, because we have a great lineup. And actually, let me see what that lineup is, so you all know. Here it is. Tonight, Mark Dice, Dems meltdown as unprecedented swamp draining continues. Jim Lee, geoengineering project halted. Jim will be on this week. Dr. Taylor Marshall, Vegano praises Trump against the deep state. Jeremy Ryan Slate with Jose Gallison. Hidden truths of the Oklahoma City bombing. I actually just recorded a episode with Jeremy Ryan Slate today that should be out on his accounts tomorrow. And then an Art Bell kicker with Dr. Roger Lear, the Turkish UFO encounter. All tonight on quitefrankly.tv after hours programming. That is after I spend a little bit of time with my friend Sandra on her D Live and her pilled. That's Coffee Talk with Sandra. Be there. And tomorrow, after hours overtime is going to be with Matt Christensen. It's the first Wednesday of the new month, so I'll be on with Matt Christensen and all that stuff. And just a reminder to you all that the February sponsorship special is a big one, because we are doing the first month of Film Club, which. Watch Interstellar. Start writing your notes down. Take a picture. Take note. I'm going to put the official thread up on the screen, up on the forum. It'll mimic the book club thread, because it's going to hit on all the same things. But there's going to be different things that we do that night. Behind the scenes, did you knows, whatever. Maybe a review of the score, and because obviously, especially the Interstellar music with Hans Zimmer is very, very famous at this point. But because it's the first month for Movie Club, for Film Club, we are going to be sending all new sponsors. Doesn't matter what you pledge at on where, if it's through quitefrankly.tv or on Patreon or Subscribestar, it's all on the sponsor us page on quitefrankly.tv. Wherever you are, you get me your, I'll be asking for your email, or actually your mailing address, and you're going to be getting all types of movie themed stuff. I think Lauren said that there's going to be a keychain, and there's slap bracelets, and there's a popcorn bag. There's also I'm going to handwritten note on this little movie ticket thing that we all got. And also you're getting 3 sample bags of Keto Brainz from our brand new sponsor, but an old time love of mine. Love Keto Brainz. I'm so happy. We're already sent out about 20 because of all you old school sponsors. If you're a sponsor right now, you want to try the Keto Brainz, get in touch with me. Okay? Just message me on Patreon or Subscribestar, or email me with all that stuff, and by all means get in touch with me, because I have already marked a couple of dozen people for delivery, and Keto Brainz is so excited for everybody just to try it. So am I really am. So movie club, so many other great things. I'll see you soon. I got a date with Sandra. I'll be right back tomorrow, of course.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Bye, folks. Bye-bye. Bye.